we are going to ask everyone's indulgence and patience with the fact that this is, after a year, I think the first live event that we are having. So there's a few bumps in the roads, but we all know each other well enough and for years to know that we can handle a few bumps in the road with a new office and new staff and everything like that that comes with it. But you know what? We're old friends and we go way back. We're not going to tell how way back we go, but we are all excited to be here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. For now, I would like to present the colors, and I will call on the Vietnam Veterans America Chapter 32 Color Guard to present the colors. I would like to call upon Michael O'Kane to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Michael was the past president of Chapter 32.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael, and may I take the liberty of saying it's great to see you on your own 2 feet. For the Star Spangled Banner, I would like to now introduce the Connolly sisters who will be performing for us.
See by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I want to thank Chapter 32. We really were last minute called the chapter, and as they always are, every time they're asked for service, they immediately got the color guard together, came and joined us, and I am very grateful and thankful to Chapter 32 for the work that they do in general, but for today as well. We now have the invocation. This morning's invocation will be offered by Pastor Paul Milholland of the Trinity Lutheran Church in Astoria. Pastor, nice to see you again.
Why don't y'all sit down? I know I'm going to pray, but sit down. At the end of the day, at every military post that the United States has around the world, and at the funeral services of every person who has served and is a veteran, and today, we will hear taps. And many people don't know it, but there are words to taps, and I want to read them to you now as a part of our invocation. Day is done. Gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well. Safely rest. God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and a star gems the sky, gleaming bright. From afar, drawing near, falls the night. Thanks and praise for our days, neath the sun, neath the stars, neath the sky. As we go, this we know, God is nigh. Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask for your presence here this day. You who have been present with every service person who has fallen, whether in Vietnam or World War II or the Civil War or whatever. You who have been with all who have served and given the last full measure of their devotion to protect us and our country. Be with us now and bless all those who are here, that we may honor our dead in our hearts, even as we know that they rest quietly with you until the final trumpet sound. In your most precious name we pray.
Amen. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to this Elmhurst Park, to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Many of you remember as borough presidents when we worked together. I think it was feels like 1922. But it was really, I think it was 19 something. It was 2000 something, where I put in money to build a memorial park here for veterans, for the Vietnam veterans, for all those in Queens County who died for our country in Vietnam. It was 10 years as I became the borough president that it took to actually get this going. And so for another $1.95 million on top of the $100,000 I put in the 10 years before, we have this memorial that is dedicated to everyone in Queens County that fell during Vietnam, who also has a special citation to Pat Toro, who later on died from disease that he caught in Vietnam, an illness that many of our veterans catch and die later. He is here on this wall to represent the fact that there are those that died after for their service. And so I'm excited to be here in front of this memorial. Their names are on it, their ages are on it in which they died. And it was an exciting day to put this in. Pat fought for it for years. Chapter 32 continued to fight, and it will be here for all to see. I do want to thank, on behalf of Chief Nyberg, Jennifer Nyberg, who is here, and Camille Chinkifat, my Chief of Staff, Colleen Babb, who is the executive over community engagement. Do I have any other executives that are here? Okay, there are a lot more coming as we go and continue today, but it was important for me to get everyone together. It has been a long time since many of us have been in the same place. It has been a long time since we've been able to celebrate together, since we've been able to grieve together, since we've been able to honor our flag and honor the people of the United States of America who died so that I can put my 2 children to bed every night safe and sound in their house. That is why it was so important that this event be the first one for me to be live in person. And you all know that Dan Brown is now working at the Queens DA's office, coincidentally. we have continued this tradition. And in the year and a half since I have been the Queen's DA, and we all know each other through different ways, we have worked hard to create a system of justice, to make sure that drivers of crime know that they will be held accountable for their behavior, but also that the next generation should not come up and pick up the exact same guns that we just convicted the drivers of crime for. That this is a joint effort, it's a balanced hand. It's one that allows us to convict those that we need to and make sure that those who should never appear in our court, those young people who are coming up, who the best safety in the County of Queens is that they never end up in our court system. You can do those two together, and you can make sure that this borough is a safer place because our young people have mentors and teachers and coaches and everything that goes along with that. But at the same time, we know that veterans get into trouble. We know that they have PTSD. We know that they have emotional issues and just issues that come from fighting in a war and making sure that we have help for them too. So on April 27th of this year, we launched the Queens District Attorney's Veterans Advisory Council. By meeting with the veterans community, we create a working agenda and set out to better assist our veterans. And we have a working relationship. They have a hand to us. They have a communication, a liaison, and we make sure that that is mutual and that we work together. At the same time, we are currently working with the veterans community through the Queens Misdemeanor Veterans Treatment Court. Many of you talked to me about that before I became the DA. We are working to make sure that that continues and that we enhance it by getting to a place where you don't have to plead guilty in order to get into the Veterans Court. And I think that's extremely important. It works on housing, it works on psychological counseling, it works on drug and alcohol treatment while adjudicating the misdemeanors. So we are excited by Judge John Dunn, who served in the Air Force, reaching the rank of captain, who runs that. We are excited by Judge Gershony, who served in the U.S. Army for 21 years, who reached the rank of major. Anyone who has issues as a veteran or with our courts or needs treatment can call us at 718-286-6000. And lastly, on a personal note, I want to express my deep appreciation for all of you that have fought. It is important to remember that as World War II veterans are no longer with us, that there are still some fighting and still around, but that we hand down the teachings of World War II to our next generation, that we celebrate those veterans that are still with us, and that we remember those that left us. And that's why it's so important to be here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So we are going to start our honorees. I'm sorry that it's so hot. Next year, Dan will make a note. Maybe we do it over there. So, always a leader. We are going to start also by asking elected officials to say a few words that have come to pay tribute to those that have fallen. I do want to start with our borough president, Donovan Richards. I still want to say councilman, I'm sorry, but Mr. Borough President, Donovan Richards.
Let's give it up for our district attorney who made this possible. Isn't this a beautiful memorial? Thank you, and it's an honor to be here this morning to remember our veterans. For those who need to be reminded, Queens is the home in New York City to the largest population of veterans. So I thank each and every one of you who paid great sacrifice for our communities and for those who've given their life in order for us to enjoy the freedoms that we can enjoy today. It is important to remember that those who paid the supreme sacrifice so that we can live in the greatest country in the world are forever in our debt. And may we all remember that freedom is not free, that there are individuals who paid with their lives for us to sit here today, and we are forever indebted to them. We also need to continue to fight for our veterans and to ensure that they receive the resources that they need. And I am a firm believer that there should be zero homelessness in our country and in our city, especially for those who continue to pay and to sacrifice for us to be here. I also just want to talk about something that's been going on around the borough, and in particular around our city, as we face this second pandemic of hate. May we be reminded that we are the United States of America, not the divided states of America. It's very important that each and every one of us continue to raise our voices when we see people who may not look like us being attacked on all fronts, because an affront on one of us is an affront on each and every one of us. And I want to thank our district attorney, who continues to take hate crime seriously, because she understands that we are the most diverse county in the world. 190 countries represented here, 350 languages nearly spoken here in Queens County. And while there may be those who seek to build walls here in Queens County, we believe in building bridges, and that is a large part thanks to our veterans, who, no matter what they look like, where they came from, what their socio-economic status was, they went to war to ensure that we could stand here and be afforded the freedoms we have. So I wanted to be here to say thank you to all of you who obviously serve us, but for all of our active duty service members as well. May we keep them in our prayers, and may we continue to say thank you, not just on this day, but on each and every day. Every day should be Memorial and Veterans Day in our hearts. Thank you, Madam District Attorney, and I look forward to continuing to cash many of the checks you wrote as the new borough president. Thank you. God bless America.
I'd like to now introduce an extremely hardworking assemblyman who was my colleague in the New York City Council, who's now serving as a New York State Assembly member. He was chair of the Finance Committee in the Council, and he has an extraordinary history in public service and public work at both levels of government. I introduce Assemblyman David Weber.
Thank you, District Attorney Katz, for bringing us together. You know, it seems to be, obviously we're approaching Memorial Day, and it's unfortunate that we seem to remember our veterans more so on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, but we should honor our veterans each and every day of our lives, because our country was built on veterans' contribution, and as was pointed out so many times, it's because of the veterans that went before us, and some who have made the ultimate sacrifice, that really allows us to have the freedom that we have, to spend time with our families and friends, children and grandchildren, and this memorial to the Vietnam veterans, and I know District Attorney Katz worked on it for many years, and I supported it. Actually, when I was in the City Council, we did a lot of work with Pat Toro and so many others to support the veterans of the Vietnam War, because many of them felt that they were neglected when they came back, and we didn't really sufficiently honor their service. And it's wonderful that we have this beautiful memorial to our veterans from the Vietnam War, but really it's important that we remember all our veterans everywhere, whatever service they served in. My late father, Sol Weprin, who was a World War II veteran, he served in the Coast Guard. He was always very proud of that service. So although I didn't serve in the military, I appreciate the contributions that our veterans have made to our borough, our city, and our country. So thank you once again, District Attorney Katz, for bringing us together. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Assemblywoman Stacey Amato to say a few words. Stacey always shows up at every single veterans event, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Melinda, this memorial is awesome. It's my first time being here. It's impressive. it does its job, and thank you for that, because we know that we're Queens strong, and we know that most veterans, as Donovan had said, come from Queens, and that's our roots. But for me, I feel it's a little Rockaway party going on here, as I represent the Rockaways in Howard Beach and Ozone Party. One, never too hot for me, so I'm very happy. And as the Connolly sisters are here from Howard Beach, my constituents, so proud. But I'm also joined by Dan Brown, my constituent, so proud. So I think, I know you like to do it here, but Rockaway's a good location. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Just say a few words.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to throw that out there. No, and to be here, I'm honored. Why? Because I'm elected to the New York State Assembly, and I'm there because our country has free and fair elections, and that's because of all the veterans that have fought to make our country the best. I'm on the Veterans Committee, which was most important to me because, as I just spoke to you about, our roots in the Rockaway, Howard Beach community is deep for our veterans. But so is my family's connection. My grandfather served in World War II. My father is Navy. My brother right now is in the Army, and I'm going to be killed because I think he's like a sergeant major thing, really big and scary. But that's who we are. We talk about it. We always think how we could do better. And Scott Judge Dunn is also my constituent. And that's the next level that we have to continue to work with your office, is that making sure that when our veterans do come to court, and they do come to court, we have the services they need. And that's what my commitment is as an elected on the Veterans Committee, to make sure programs like the Jim Dwyer Foundation monies are there to help our, whether there's mental illness, or to make sure we get the support that we need, because one suicide by a veteran is one too many. And I want to commit that to you today. I'm honored to be here today. We will never forget our veterans who fought hard. I can feel Melinda in my ear, so I'm moving along. Thank you everyone for being here. But I'll always be here with you and know that our office is here to serve. And to the honorees today, thank you for everything that you've done. It's my pleasure to be here.
No, I was afraid if the Assemblywoman kept going, we'd all have to get up and move to the Rockaways now. And I was a little bit frightened of that. Thank you, Assemblywoman. You're right, Rockaways is always represented in any office I'm in, just so you know. I do want to acknowledge, before I call up Councilman Holden, the new chapter president, Douglas Williams of 32. I did not acknowledge his new presidency. I also want to acknowledge John Rowan. John Rowan literally taught me everything I needed to know about veterans 30 years ago when I ran for the first time when I was 5. And he has been a great friend throughout the years, John, and you've changed generations of people's lives. So thank you for being here. Hi, Marianne. How are you? Next, we have Councilman Holden. Councilman Holden, I think, is amazing. I'm going to say this about him, and I'm going to embarrass him. I've been doing this almost 28 years now. I've never seen someone go from a civic activist leader to an elected official with such style and ease and grace. I think you represent the office well, and I thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Robert Holden.
Thank you, Melinda, for that one. Does somebody have that recorded? He's got it. Okay. By the way, this is a very moving ceremony for me, because this was the 90s. In the 90s, you did mention 90s, but the gas tanks were here. You remember that? The Elmhurst gas tanks? They announced that they were going to be dismantled in it was late 90s, 96 it started. And then the battle began to find out what would we do with this land here. And we were months away in the early 2000s of this becoming a big box store and a mall. Months away. And Michael Caine knows about that one. We had almost given up hope, because the electeds at the time said we can't come up with the money to buy this property from Keyspan. So this became a battle, and the community rallied, and I was part of that, and I'm very proud of that. We said no. We had to put up with the gas tanks, the lead paint from the gas tanks, the noise from the gas tanks, the unsightly gas tanks. And they were. This property was neglected for years, and we wanted a park. And then we were told by many that this couldn't be a park because Keyspan owed it to their ratepayers. We said no, we want a park. So about a year battle, and finally we petitioned Mayor Bloomberg, and guess what? Keyspan donated the site. Actually, the city paid $1. $1 for this lovely park. And that's what we have here today. So the battles to have this become a park and a memorial, and again, when the borough president, and now she's district attorney obviously, but when she stepped forward and said, I'm going to put up the money for the Vietnam Vets Memorial, which is fitting, which is so fitting, because every generation had their wars, unfortunately, here in the United States. My father had, obviously, the greatest generation had World War II. We had the Korean War. We had the Vietnam War, the Gulf Wars, and so many other wars that I'm not even mentioning. And this was my generation's war. That some of my friends are on this wall. And it's very moving to see, and I'm so glad that you had the wherewithal to put the ages of the people that died here, that on this wall, because you look at them, 19, 18, 20, 21, so tragic, so moving that, I mean, it's so, Neil Nunziato, my good friend Tony Nunziato's brother, older brother, volunteered for a very dangerous mission. He didn't have to do it. He's been on several. He volunteered a day after his 21st birthday and got killed in Vietnam. And so many other families have really sacrificed so much. But I know, Michael Pellegrino was on here, a friend in high school. And I didn't know he was killed in Vietnam until a few years ago. Age 20. They never lived their lives, really. And we owe so much to them. And if anybody lived during that time, it was such an unpopular war. And the vets that came back, and everybody would say the horrific experience that they went through and how they weren't welcomed back. And that's tragic. But we owe it to the Vietnam vets. We can never repay them for what they sacrificed, and certainly we can never repay the young men on this wall. But thank you, District Attorney, for having again the vision. This will be your legacy, I think. This Vietnam vets, and again, Memorial Day starts here now, which is great. The Massive Memorial Day Parade will start here. It's going to go to the Garland Triangle, monument to World War I, and then the World War II monument on 69th and Grand. So it's very fitting that we have this, and we're going to start here every year. Thank you so much.
Okay. So we are going to start with our honorees. I want to thank everyone for being so patient in the heat that is here. And if you give me 1 second, I will start. Please. All right. So the first honoree is Corporal Miriam A. Saniadigan. And she is not only is she a United States Marine Corps reservist, veteran of 8 years, who served during Operation Enduring Freedom. Ms. Saniadigan is also the Bureau Chief for the Queens District Attorney's Office and Case Assessment Bureau. She does an amazing job at the DA's office. I am very honored to have her. Her history is extremely lengthy for the 8 years that she served as a reservist, but she brings all of that experience, all of that talent, all of that commitment that she learned in the armed forces right to the Queens District Attorney's Office, and it is my honor to honor her today with a plaque on behalf of the 790 people at the Queens District Attorney's Office and Chief Nyberg. Thank you. I'm looking for the numbers, Chief Nyberg. We're good? 790 people. So, Chief Miriam, whoops, wrong one. To Corporal Miriam Saniadigan, Esquire, U.S. Marines, Reserve, Operation Enduring Freedom. You are given this award in remembrance of Memorial Day 2021. Congratulations, and on a personal note, thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of the people of Queens County. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
as my boss has told you, I'm Miriam Stanny-Adigan, and I just wanted to say really quickly, it is an extreme honor to be bestowed upon with this award. Thank you, everyone. I want to say congratulations to all of the other honorees, and for your service. Thank you. To my loving husband for consistently supporting me, even though I can be a nag. I couldn't do most of what I do without you, so thank you so much. As a first generation American, my parents came from Nigeria. It was my duty and my honor.
We have people on Zoom who also want to hear you. So,
Yes. Can you hear me now? Yes. All right, so I'm going to project. As I was saying, my parents came from Nigeria, and I thought it was bestowing upon me to serve a country that's given my parents, my family, and myself such great accomplishments and abilities to do wonderful things. And after serving in the United States Marine Corps, it was only important to me and necessary that I now serve the citizens of Queens County. And I just want to say thank you again. I'm not going to keep too long because it is hot. And have a great day, everyone.
we next have the second honoree, and for the presentation of the honor, to Lieutenant Colonel, retired Blossom Ferguson. She served our country in the United States Army during Operation Desert Storm. She is also retired from a 44-year career as a registered nurse. So thank you for that service to everyone. Congratulations to that. She was called out of retirement last year to serve with the State Department of Health's vaccination mission, once again answering the call of duty to her country. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Blossom Ferguson to the podium. It's hard for me to see in the sun, sorry. So, to Lieutenant Blossom Ferguson, this is an award on behalf of the Queens County District Attorney's Office for this Memorial Day Observance 2021. Thank you for not only serving our country in Operation Desert Storm, thank you for being there for the veterans, because I know folks that served in Operation Desert Storm are so meaningful to those returning, and that you continue to be helpful to the next generation that is coming up, but also for your service as a registered nurse at a time when your country really needed you the most. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
First, I must say thank you, God, for waking us up this morning in this beautiful Thursday morning weather. Thanks to our Queens District Attorney, Melinda Katz, for her diligence and outstanding work that you're doing as a DA and in keeping your promises to the people of Queens. To your staff, Ron Brown and the planning committee for this award and for putting this ceremony together. Good morning, all veterans, family members, and friends, as we gather here this morning to remember those who have paid the way for us and paid for with their lives for freedom. Lest we forget, as our bar president said, freedom is never free. Someone had to pay for it. It was 31 years ago when President Bush ordered our troop into combat, known as Desert Storm, that went into Desert Shield. Desert Storm was the first major foreign crisis for the United States after the end of the Cold War. It was a direct response to the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq. Facts: more than 500,000 American troops were deployed to Saudi Arabia as part of Operation Desert Shield. This conflict became the largest air campaign since the conflict in the Southeast Asia. But unfortunately, 2,299 of our uniformed men and women lost their lives, the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, one might say that's a small number of lives to be lost with a war. But these were our sons and daughters, husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters. They were lost. What happened to the scars of war, to the survivors, the wounded, those with PTSD and other health issues? I know my son had returned with the scars of war. Observance of Memorial Day as we pay honor to those who gave their life in battle. I am honored to be one of the honorees in this ceremony. Shaking. My hands are nervous. Okay. I am retired Lieutenant Colonel Blossom Ferguson, a native of Kingston, Jamaica, West Indies, who came to the United States with my husband and my 2-year-old son in 1969. We settled in Queens because our families were here. What did we did shortly after our daughter was born, and she's standing right over there, right now, over there. Our family was now complete. With our son in daycare, I went to the library to borrow books to study, to take the GED. With the GED in hand, my journey began. My formal education started at Queensborough Community College, right here in Queens. With an associate degree in nursing, I worked nights and continued my schooling for a bachelor's while still being a wife and a mother. At nights, working nights enabled me to be active with my children in their after-school activities. On a flight back from Jamaica after attending my father's funeral in 1989, I said I was grateful for the opportunities we received in America. How can I give back to a country who gave us our formal education? With that thought and talking with friends, I learned about the Army Reserve. I pursued it, and with direct commission, I was sworn in as a second lieutenant in 1985. My recruiter asked me, why are you going in the reserve? You're an established woman. You have a home, you're working, you have a good career. Why? My response to her was to give back to this country that has given us so much. I am joining not to fight a war, but to take care of the products of war, the veterans. Thank you. I retired from the U.S. Army Reserve after serving 21 years. I worked hard and I was recognized. I went to military school, promoted, got awards, and with many medals. I also continued my civilian life, my civilian schooling, receiving 2 masters, with the last one as a nurse practitioner. The 27 years I spent at the Bronx VA Medical Center serving the veterans. I retired in 2018. And I was going to have a wonderful life and do whatever. I'm still having a wonderful life. But then, the pandemic. The call came out for returning nurses. The Army was calling, the State Department of Health was calling, and the VA called. And I went back to the VA because I know who I would be serving, the veterans. My first assignment there last April was to work in the telephone triage. And what is that? Many of you veterans might know it's called the Nurses Helpline. When veterans call in at night, 24 hours a day, whatever problem they're having, to speak to a registered nurse. I filled that slot. We had over 600 calls in one day. Veterans are calling. They're crying. They don't know what to do. This pandemic is taking their family members. They are sick. What should we do? Some of them are suicidal, and you have to do the intervention. And at times you have to intervene by calling 911 for them, keeping them on the line while your colleague or you go on another line and call 911 so they could answer the call. That's what we did. And then, March 1st, another call went out. The VA, they asked for the clinical staff to man the Yonkers vaccination center. We answered that call. And for over 80 days, we were there. I was one of them who vaccinated over 80,000 residents of Westchester. That mission ended this week, Tuesday, on May 25th. What will I do next? I'll go back to the VA and give vaccination the veterans. Now they can have their wives be vaccinated and their caregivers. And that's what I do. So, I am grateful for this to be honored this morning. And to all the veterans, I thank you. To the honorees, thank you for your service. And we should, lest we forget, those who paid the ultimate price. Thank you.
Lieutenant Colonel, thank you very much for that speech. It's rare that I feel like I haven't done enough with my life. And you have led an amazing life and are continuing to do so, and I thank you for that service. We now have the introduction of the guest speaker. Our guest speaker today is the Assistant Director of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, New York Regional Office. He's also a combat wounded veteran of the United States Army, and we thank him for being here today. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Breota. Thank you.
Thank you for that kind introduction, District Attorney Gates. Thank you, distinguished guests, families, friends, and those, and of course our America's veterans. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Memorial Day event. On behalf of Secretary McDonough, thank you for all participating today. Thank you for inviting me to attend this Memorial Day ceremony in beautiful Elmhurst Park. I'm honored here and to be humbled and silver ringed to be standing here at this memorial that dedicates 371 Queens residents who had made the ultimate sacrifice during the Vietnam War. To many, Memorial Day is dedicated to those who fell in defense of the core ideals, beliefs, and values we hold sacred into this nation. As a combat veteran, myself, Memorial Day is a day that I remember all my brothers and sisters who made the ultimate sacrifice to fulfill their duty to each other, their loved ones, and their nations. We're all warriors, and we all know that death is part of war. However, true death is forgetting those warriors and their actions and their sacrifices. Memorial Day ensures that we as a nation never allow that to happen, and we always remember our nation's heroes. The roots of Memorial Day reach back to 1860, when America began honoring Civil War dead by placing flowers on the graves of the fallen. This simple gesture to memorialize those who had fallen in battle quickly spread across the nation. The first official recognition of Decoration Day, as it was called back in 1868. And then on May 30th of 1868 of that same year, Arlington National Cemetery was established. Just south of the Potomac River, more than 5,000 citizens, just like you all here, were standing there listening to speeches, reciting prayers, and saying hymns as they walked through the ceremony, casting flowers on more than 20,000 graves of Civil War soldiers. standing here and speaking in honor of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country is not and has never been an easy or lighthearted task, especially at ceremonies that may include family and friends of the fallen we honor. This is not a new challenge. Almost 158 years ago, President Lincoln struggled with that same task. He said of those who gave... It's dangerous up here. President Lincoln struggled with that same task. He said of those who gave the full measure of devotion, the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world little note nor long remember what we say here. But we can never forget what they did here. There's nothing that can be said that surpasses that noble sacrifice. Dedication, consecration of those who gave all to uphold our democratic ideals, who gave their lives in war so that following generations could have the opportunity to prosper and thrive. America has been blessed as no other country in the history of the world. The sacrifice and the honorable service of our armed forces have given us the security and freedom in which we grow, flourish as a nation in law, human rights, economic sciences, technology, and the arts. Over nearly 2.5 centuries, this defined moments of both calm and crisis. Americans in uniform have realized our most fervent hopes and vanquished our darkest fears through their noble actions. From America's expansion from 13 struggling colonies to a mighty nation and a world leader, challenges and conflicts have been enduring companions. After the first volley of fire of 1775 Battle of Lexington, Massachusetts, where the shot heard around the world rang out, 8 Minutemen lay dead. The first Americans sacrificed for the principles of freedom, and certainly not the last. The 20th century have found Americans in the trenches of World War I in Europe, and in the Pacific on the battlefields of World War II. In the snow and mountains of Korea, the jungles of Vietnam, on the sands of the Persian Gulf and in Kosovo. In most recent conflicts that have now stretched for almost 20 years now, our troops have been fighting in both Afghanistan and Iraq. Today we remember all those generations who did not make it home to their families, where they made the ultimate sacrifice in a named battle that earned their unit battle streamers, or a firefight marked only by grid coordinates or a hill number on a map. American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines stood fast time and again. Young Americans fought with and for each other. They provided us that opportunity for both peace and privilege, even the privilege to gather as we do today to honor them. We at the Department of Affairs are privileged to work with and honor the fallen by serving the living. Every day is Veterans Day and Memorial Day for us. We strive to fulfill President Lincoln's call to serve those who have borne the battle, to take care of their families, their caregivers, and their survivors. It is both a privilege and a great responsibility to serve them, as selflessly as they served us. They did not fail us, and we will not fail them. Memorial Days in remembrance and gratitude and reflection. By participating in this ceremony and other remembrances like it, by our advocacy of veteran service members and our service organizations, we reinforce that convent between America, the men and women who protected and defended. This will defend. It is in large part the deeds that we honor today, the deeds of all American veterans that bind us to our noble past, strengthen us from our difficult present, and inspire us to meet future challenges. Thank you all for participating, and God bless our honored dead, those who are currently serving our country in uniform, and all those in our nations and our veterans. And I'd like to personally say thank you very much for all your service. I love that non-commissioned officers are coming up, making their way. I am new to New York in this capacity. I grew up in Long Island. I joined the military in the Army. Did my tours in Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Was wounded, went to Walter Reed, and while I was at Walter Reed, we all have to make this choice, whether we're going to let our wounds define us, or if our wounds are going to empower us. So I chose the route of empowerment, and I chose to make a difference. I also was a non-commissioned officer, so I also felt that it was appropriate for me to continue on in serving veterans and our service members. VA was a natural choice that fit perfectly for me. So I'm honored to actually be here be selected as the Assistant Director to lead the New York RO office to serving our veterans. And I take that honor wholeheartedly with a lot of energy and a lot of gusto. But I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself, but also to our VSOs that I've seen out here and our local elected officials. I'm going to work strenuously and hard to serve our veterans for the benefits that they earned. Thank you for your time.
I don't want to get in between this Marines, Army, Navy competition, but that block was pretty good. Thank you very much for your service and for being with us here today. Our final honoree before we lay the wreath is Specialist 4th Class Paul Federer. He is a United States Army veteran of Vietnam. He is also a retired 20-year veteran of the New York City Police Department, came home and continued to serve his country, as well as a 15-year member of the Vietnam Veteran Wars of America, Chapter 32. So I ask Specialist 4th Class Paul Federer to join me up here so we can say, truly, welcome home. Thank you. On behalf of the Queens District Attorney's Office and all that I serve in Queens County, we give you this great this honor today. We thank you for your service to the country, to the city of New York as an NYPD officer, and it is Memorial Day today, 2021. And again, I said it before, but I can't say it enough to a Vietnam veteran. Welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda, and thank you for your staff for organizing it. Quite a while ago, we made a commitment to put the uniform on, and with that commitment, we left our families. Some of us came home, not as whole as we had left, but a lot of us did not come home. To our sisters and brothers that did not have that opportunity to reunite with their families, today is their moment, and we remember them today. So thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask you all to stand as we place the memorial wreath. The wreath placement will be followed by a moment of silence as we remember the service and the sacrifice of all the men and women who have served in our nation's military and are no longer with us. The wreath is placed by the monument wall. The wreath signifies all veterans that died in every one of our wars, our actions in service of our country. The wreath will be placed. This is followed by a moment of silence before the bugler is signaled. Thank you. Thank you, Chapter 32, for making sure no one gets hurt up here. We appreciate it. I would like to invite the Connolly sisters to return for the singing of America the Beautiful.
Spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruity plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Let me thank the Connolly sisters. Really, you are amazing. And have added a real, I don't know what the word is, but something, to this service. Seriously, it was amazing. I would like to introduce, to offer the benediction, Imam Shamsi Ali from the Jamaica Muslim Center.
Good morning. There is a famous saying says, the one who doesn't thank fellow humans cannot thank God. So with that in mind, let's pray for our veterans and for those who live their life well. Let's pray. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Our Lord, we thank you for enabling us to gather here this morning to thank our veterans and remember the lives well lived. As we remember them, guide us and strengthen us to live by the legacy left behind. We thank you, Allah God, for having given us the opportunity to remember them, to thank them and to pray for them, but more importantly, to continue the legacy and the fight for our nation and for the freedom and justice in the world. Ya Rahman Ar-Rahim, O compassionate, merciful God, look with compassion on the whole human family, the one family under God. Help us to break down the walls that separate us, and help us to build bridges that connect us, strengthen us to love and to take care for one another. Unite us to fight against hate, prejudice, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, Asian hate, and xenophobia. O Lord of mankind, help us to see your face in the faces of people around us. Give us strength to embrace one another, even when friendship seems like a risk. We pray for those who have fallen in line of duty, that may God embrace all of them with mercy, and their family be strengthened and be given patience. May all the inhabitants of a great Queensboro, our great New York City, and our great country, United States, continue to learn to embrace our beautiful diversity and to continue to live in peace and harmony with one another. And God, please do continue to bless us and bless the United States of America.
Everyone can be seated. I would like to thank our color guard, the 32. I'd like to thank flotilla staff Officer Louis DeLeo for being our bugler again. The imam, of course, and the pastor for performing the invocation and the benediction. Connolly sisters who, I think the word is grandeur. You gave the service a bit of grandeur, and I thank you for that. I want to thank the New York City Parks Department and also Dan Brown for all the work that they do. In closing, though, I know we're here at this memorial, but there are generations of people who have lost those in the armed service that we are remembering today. But there are also people all across the world right now who are away from their families, not seeing their children raised, not with their spouses, not with the people in the family that they love, because they are right now, as we sit here, memorializing our dead. They are making sure that our country remains safe, remains free, and that we can each put our children to bed at night knowing that they are safe. So I would like to take a few seconds in quiet thought to say thank you to them, to yourselves, please. Thank you. Can you please retire the colors?
Right face. Forward, high.
Thank you for joining us at our first in-person event. We look forward to many, many more. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, everyone.